Amidst the neon-drenched, hyper-paced rush hour of central Seoul, a young man steps away from the crowd and slips into a quiet, concrete stairwell. He checks his watch, aligns himself precisely 45 degrees away from the bustling street outside, and kneels on a small, folded piece of fabric. In less than an hour, his corporate team will expect him to participate in a ritual that directly contradicts everything he is praying to protect. Meet Dawood, formerly Min Woo, a 28-year-old software developer born and raised in South Korea. 3 years ago, after a university exchange program sparked a profound spiritual journey, he took his Shahada and became one of the estimated 60,000 native Korean Muslims living in the country today. Living in a hyper-homogeneous society where less than 0.5% of the population is Muslim, Dawood's daily life is a constant exercise in cultural translation. He loves his country, its deep-rooted traditions, and its modern drive. But today, we follow him to see what happens when the absolute demands of an ancient faith collide with the unyielding expectations of modern Seoul. The day begins at 4:30 a.m. in a compact apartment in Mapo-gu. The soft chime of the Fajr prayer alarm breaks the silence, hours before the sun will clear the Han River fog. As Dawood completes his morning prayers, the contrast of his life is visual. A traditional prayer rug laid over minimalist heated ondol flooring, looking out toward a skyline dominated by corporate skyscraper logos. By 7:45 a.m., he is swallowed by the sea of dark suits boarding the subway line 2. In Seoul, punctuality is not a preference, it is a moral obligation. On the train, Dawood uses his commute to review local Korean lifestyle apps, looking for something that the average commuter never has to think about: a verified map of ingredient lists. This brings us to the first major hurdle of the day: breakfast and lunch. Korean cuisine is celebrated worldwide for its rich flavors, but for a practicing Muslim, it is a minefield. The foundational backbone of Korean cooking relies heavily on pork products, lard, and mirin, a sweet cooking wine used in almost every broth, sauce, and marinade. Even a seemingly simple bowl of kimchi jjigae or a quick convenience store gimbap usually contains hidden alcohol or non-halal meat. To survive, Dawood has mastered kimchi halal fusion. He prepares his own lunchboxes, substituting traditional ingredients with certified alternatives bought from international markets in Itaewon, the city's multicultural hub. Today, he's packing a homemade bibimbap using custom-marinated halal beef and locally sourced untainted sesame oil. It looks identical to his coworkers, a deliberate choice to avoid drawing unnecessary attention to his differences. At the office, the pace is relentless. In Korean corporate culture, or Hosa, individual identity is secondary to collective harmony. When the clock strikes noon, the entire department moves as a single organism to the cafeteria. Dawood sits with them, politely declining the communal side dishes, opening his personal container instead. His colleagues watch with polite curiosity, nodding as he explains for the 100th time why he cannot just eat around the meat. They respect his work ethic, but as the afternoon wore on, a much larger cultural barrier began to loom over the office. By 3 p.m., the physical toll of balancing faith and corporate expectations peaks. It's time for the Asr prayer. Unlike global capitals like London or New York, Seoul has no public prayer rooms outside of major tourist landmarks or universities. Dawood cannot simply ask his manager for a dedicated prayer space. Doing so would break the ultimate unwritten rule of the Korean workplace: do not burden the group with your personal needs. So, he improvises. He uses his 15-minute coffee break to find an empty emergency exit stairwell or an unused storage closet. He prays silently, keeping his movements compact and swift, constantly listening for the sound of approaching footsteps. The anxiety of being discovered is a quiet daily tax on his mental peace. But the true test of endurance doesn't happen during office hours. It happens at 6 p.m. when the department head announces an impromptu hoisik, the mandatory after-work company dinner. In South Korea, the hoisik is where promotions are decided, alliances are forged, and workplace stress is dissolved through heavy drinking. Alcohol, specifically soju, is the social glue of corporate Seoul. To refuse a drink from a senior manager is traditionally viewed as a direct insult or a rejection of the company family. Dawood sits at the low barbecue table surrounded by sizzling pork belly and pouring green bottles. He holds a glass filled only with water, pouring drinks for his superiors to show respect while maintaining his boundaries. The atmosphere is tense but cordial. Yet as the night goes on and the conversations grow louder, the invisible wall between Dawood and his peers becomes undeniable. He is in his homeland, speaking his native language, yet he is entirely on the outside. To heal from the isolation of the corporate week, Dawood seeks refuge where the neon signs give way to something older. On Friday evening, he makes his way up the steep hills of Itaewon to the Seoul Central Mosque, the first Islamic mosque built in South Korea, completed in 1976. Stepping through the blue-tiled Islamic arches, the chaotic energy of the city completely evaporates. Here, the demographic makeup of Muslim Korea comes alive. Dawood stands shoulder to shoulder with Uzbek traders, Indonesian factory workers, Pakistani students, and a small growing group of native Korean converts. In this room, his accent doesn't make him an anomaly, and his dietary restrictions don't make him a burden. The community here has created an entire microeconomy to support lives like Dawood's. The streets surrounding the mosque are lined with halal-certified Korean barbecue restaurants, grocery stores importing spices from the Middle East, and cafes where young Muslims gather to discuss how to navigate their faith in a society that is moving at hyperspeed. During holidays like Eid or the nights of Ramadan, this neighborhood transforms. Young Korean Muslims bring their non-Muslim friends here to share food, breaking down stereotypes through hospitality. They are creating a new identity, one that proves you do not have to give up your Korean heritage to be a devout Muslim, nor do you have to compromise your faith to be a proud citizen of Seoul. As the weekend comes to a close, Dawood stands on the observation deck of Namsan Tower, looking over the endless grid of the glowing metropolis. His journey is not about conflict, it is about integration. He represents a quiet, resilient shift in the cultural fabric of a nation that is slowly learning to embrace diversity. Being a Muslim in South Korea means living in a constant state of negotiation. It requires patience to explain, courage to stand apart, and creativity to adapt. As the call to prayer echoes quietly from his phone, drowned out by the city traffic below, Dawood smiles. He prepares for another week of work, confident that his faith doesn't make him less Korean, it simply makes his world whole.